What I have here is a brand new custom Santa Cruz Nomad after a crash. There are several scratches on the fork and parts and 2 major scratches on the top tube, also on the down tube. And in this video I show you how to remove scratches and chips at home. That's what you want to see and that's what we are doing. First step is using a heat gun to remove the protection tape. Let's do it. The next step is wet sanding with 1200 grit in an area 20 cm around the damages. If you don't know what 1200 grit means, it's this 1200, that's 1200 grit. And if you don't know what 20 cm means, it's the size of your hand. Boom. But if you are a little sucker, you have to add 10 cm. In my case, it's 20. So size of your hand, 20 cm around the damages, wet sanding with 1200 grit. And next we have to fill all the chips and scratches with primer, and there are several products you can choose from cheap to expensive, and I will link all these primers underneath the video in the video description. Please don't send me a message where to buy the stuff, because I'm not able to answer your message. There's not only you, there are several hundred people more per week who want to know where to buy the stuff I'm using, and I'm simply not able to answer several hundred emails per week just answering where to buy the stuff I'm using. I'm not a personal shopping agent. I have to work to finance my shop and to support my family. So check the video description, and if you can't find the stuff, just buy it somewhere else. So what you can use if you want to go cheap is a 1K primer like the Montana primer. It's maybe not the best solution. It will take forever. You need 5 to 7 layers to fill these gaps, and that's not what I can recommend. But if you want to go cheap, just use a 1K primer. A better solution can be the Spray Max 2K epoxy primer. That's pro stuff, but it's maybe a waste of money if you have only 1 or 2 scratches, because you have to mix the can and you can use it only for 48 hours, and when it's hardened and you have to throw it away. So if you have only 1 or 2 scratches, it can be a waste of money, but if you want to go the spray can way, that's your option. If you want to go the pro way, you can use a carbon primer like this. It's also 2-component. It's maybe an investment in the first run, but you can use it over and over again. And I will link you also one of these primers underneath the video in the description. And that's what I'm using, because that's a pro frame, a pro paint job, and it's a client work. So I have to go the pro way. Let's mix it and then let's fill these gaps. The mixing ratio in my case is 20 to 100, 100 parts of the primer and 20 parts of the hardener. But please check the data sheet of your products and make sure you use the correct mixing ratio. If you like to go with the spray can option, don't be an idiot and spray it direct on the frame. What you have to do is use a cup like this, spray the primer in the cup like so. And now use a small brush, size 4, my one is size 4, and brush it on the frame. I don't use this stuff. I'm using the hybrid primer and I do the same. I just brush it on. I let the Harbit primer cure for 12 hours, and if you don't know what 12 hours means, just check the wet sanding paper. 1, 2, that's 12 hours. Again, 1, 2, 12 hours. Please don't send me a message asking how long the primer has to cure. I say it once in the video and I don't have the time to answer several hundred messages per week asking how long the primer has to cure. That's how long the primer has to cure. And now we have to do block sanding. And for block sanding, we need a wooden block like this. That's why it's called block sanding. Take the block and the wet sanding paper, wet in the wet sanding paper, and start the block sanding. And what we need is a super smooth finish. Only the scratches have to be filled with primer, so you can feel it with your finger if it's smooth or not. And that's why you should use a block and you should do the block sanding. And that is what it should look like after the block sanding. Super smooth, and all the scratches and chips need to be filled. And when you reach this, it's time for the next step, the color. And now it gets a bit tricky because we have to find the color of the bike, and I know a lot of people don't understand the fact I have to explain, because the bad news is there are no color codes for bikes available. Again, no color codes for bikes available. There exists no color codes for bikes, so you don't need to send me a message asking what's the color code of your bike. I don't have the color code. There's no color code existing, and I try to explain it as clear as possible. Okay, so we have to find the color code of the bike with a color chart like this. And I'm a happy guy because I painted this bike 3 months ago, so I have the color code because I painted the bike myself in my paint shop. I found the color code with a color chart like this. And if you don't have the color code, just visit a hardware store or a paint shop, lend yourself these color charts and find yourself the color code of your bike using these color charts. That's the only way to find the color of your bike. Okay, so let's check the color I have to use, and then let's mix the color. And that's the color code I used 3 months ago to paint the frame to match the color with the sticker of the rims. And there's the code on the back side, so I can mix this code with the software for car painting, and I get exactly the same color I used 3 months ago. Now we have the frame color, and maybe you have bought it in a paint shop which mixed matched it to your frame color, but we have to apply it on the frame, of course, and the only really good solution of doing that is using an airbrush. But the cheapest model on the market is more than enough to do these repair jobs. This is a Fender and it costs around about $16, but buy yourself one of these airbrushes with a battery compressor underneath. They start at around about $25, which is nearly the same price like one of these 2-component spray cans. So not so much money, it's not a big investment. And if you want to go a bit more professional, buy one of these small kits with a small compressor. They start at $50 to $60. Sometimes you get a discount of $10. $10 if you are a lucky guy. And these cheap airbrushes are more than enough to do these repair jobs. So let's put the color in the airbrush and let's spray it on the frame. And we start with the easy task on the top tube, no graphics around the damage. The down tube is a bit more tricky because we have the Santa Cruz logo typing, but at first let's start with the top tube. And it's super simple. You have to spray thin layers of the color over all the areas with the primer. The top tube is done, that was the easy task. Now it gets tricky because we have to mask the cruise of the Santa Cruz, and there are several options. The cheapest one is a simple masking tape. I use this golden one, it's a painter's tape, and what you can do is mask several areas like on the U, like so. And then spray this area. Don't mask all, you will get confused. Mask a small area, spray this one first, then demask and mask another area. A better solution can be masking foil like this one. You can apply it and it's translucent so you can see the letters through the foil like so. And then use one of these hobby knives and cut the letters in the masking foil. And then just demask the area you like to spray, like around the U, and then do the next one and the next one until you have done all these areas. Yeah, it looks good, but we are not done. We have a slightly different shade of white on the R and the U from the primer, so I have to remask the cruise again to spray the white. And this time I'm using a pro mask because time is money. But if you don't have these masks, you can do it again like before. Applying a piece of this tape or applying a piece of the masking foil and cut again the letters you need to spray. And yeah, as mentioned before, I'm using the pro mask. Color's good, the graphics are good, and now we have to seal the color and the graphics with clear coat. And guess what? There are tons of options on the market. And if you want to go absolutely cheap, you can use a simple spray can with a 1K clear coat like the Montana Varnish. But I can't recommend these 1K clear coats because you can't polish them, and polishing is a must when doing these repair paint jobs. And if you go the cheap way, your finish will look like BP, like bull poop. I can't say that as well because the channel is family friendly. So have that in mind. If you go with the cheap way, your finish will look like BP. If you want to go a bit more professional, you can use a spray can, of course, with a 2K clear coat like the Spray Max. There are other brands on the market, and I will link you some underneath the video in the description. I don't say it twice this time, but have in mind that it can be a waste of money. You have to mix the hardener and the clear coat in the can, and the working hours are around about 48 hours. And then the clear coat hardens and you have to throw away the can. You can't use it forever, so have that in mind. And if you want to go absolutely pro, you can use a pro clear coat, but it must be a high solid HS clear coat like these. And there are also smaller cans. You don't need to buy a big one like I use. And yeah, you can store it several years and it's not so much waste. You have to do an investment, of course, but you can use it over and over again. And what you also need is a fade out thinner. And guess what? There are also tons of brands on the market, different thinners. And yeah, this is called fade out thinner, but there are other brands which are different called. And what it does is it smoothes out the clear coat between the painted and unpainted areas, but I show you later how to use it. So buy yourself also a fade out thinner, and yeah, link in the video description. Please don't send me a message where to buy the stuff. I will not answer these messages because I don't have the time to answer these messages. So let's start to mix the clear coat and then let's paint and finish the frame. So I mixed the clear coat and I will fill it in the airbrush. You can use your airbrush for every single step, but you have to clean it very careful. So, and now apply light coatings of the clear coat. The new clear coat is on, but there's a gap in between the new clear coat and the old one. You can see this rough area here, also here, and that's why we need the fade out thinner. We apply fade out thinner in this area to smooth this area, and it's easier to polish the clear coat when using the fade out thinner. So let's put some in the airbrush. And then let's fade out these areas. And the last step is buffing and polishing. I'll let the clear coat cure for 2 days, and if you don't know what 2 days means, just check your wet sanding paper. Two days, that's the curing time of the clear coat, and that's the wet sanding paper we need for buffing. 2000 grit. Just wet the wet sanding paper in a wet sanding bucket with water, of course. And then we have to sand the complete area we repaired. And that is what it should look like after sanding. A super smooth surface. That's what we need before we can start to polish. And to polish the frame, you need a polishing machine, of course. And if you are a pro, buy one of these orbital machines. They don't do circles, they do figure eights like this. And that avoids any hologram in the clear coat that's needed if you do dark paint jobs like black or dark blue. And if you are a DIYer and if you want to go as cheap as possible, buy the cheapest machine you can find. Nobody cares about the quality you produce. And what we also need is a polishing compound. I use a cut compound. It's also called heavy duty. And it's the one with the green cap if you go with the 3M likes. So that's what I'm using. And we need also a polishing sponge. I use the medium sponges. These are normally yellow like these. So a medium sponge and a cut compound. That's what I use. So let's apply some of the cut compound and then let's polish the frame. And that's it. That's how to remove chips and scratches on bike frames.